What's on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and some very spicy text messages were released last night from Candace Owens between Charlie Kirk and at least 6 other people. She's now claiming that she will be releasing a name a day from those text messages. We know that allegedly Josh Hammer was in this group. I have not seen a response. Now, I remain extraordinarily skeptical. There have been a lot of wild claims made by Candace Owens, with only a few of them having any kind of provenance provided. She has said before that TPUSA was there were purse strings attached to money that they were getting from Israel. This text, if real, does prove that. What it doesn't prove is that they had anything to do at all with his assassination. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are jumping on that. They're saying it without saying it. I got completely crushed last night on X, and I'll take my lumps. I thought Candace had absolutely nothing. She has this text message. But what does it prove? Well, the text message certainly is doctored. There's a lot of stuff edited in it, but that doesn't mean that the original messages aren't real. And what exactly does it prove? Well, let's take a look. What it doesn't prove is that Tyler Robinson did not assassinate Charlie Kirk. It also does not prove that Israel did. It does not prove that Charlie was becoming Catholic. It does not prove even a date that these text messages happened on, because there's no date on them. And it does not prove that that there's no additional context to it. However, one of 7 people did leak these messages to Candace, and that, I think Candace has made a lot of bold claims, whether it's trapdoors or bee cults or whatever. But I don't think then, and I still don't think now, that she's completely making this stuff up. I think she's getting sent all sorts of stuff. I don't know what her level of, vetting is for getting tips. I believe that she was sent these text messages because she's been alluding to it for quite some time. Here's the issue. There's only 6 or 7 people on this text message chain, which makes one of them a rat, which makes one of them the leaker. And she mentioned Josh Hammer specifically, who's a big pro-Israel guy, I guess. Again, I don't care about any of that. But what I will say is this guy's trial, Tyler Robinson's trial, can't come fast enough. Right now, because the FBI is not releasing any information, we don't have any new information, people can just say whatever they want and really be completely unchallenged. I think what Candace's investigation has morphed into is not necessarily who assassinated Charlie Kirk, which is what I thought it was about. That's why I was like, well, who cares about, these trapdoors and bee cults? Obviously, that's not true. But what is morphed into is the external pressure that TPUSA was under from Israeli donors. And this does prove that. However, again, hundreds of thousands of people are taking the leap that because Charlie Kirk was annoyed that some donor pulled their donation, that must mean Israel was involved in his assassination. Now everyone's saying, well, Candace never said that. You're right. Candace has not said that. She's only been basically implying it for the last 3 weeks. But she has not said that. Many people on X have said that, but Candace Owens has not said that, at least from what I've seen. I can only keep up with her show so often. I listened to it yesterday because she promised actual receipts, and now she's threatening to release more names, which I think will only end up prompting the other 6 people on this list to release the texts. Maybe that's a good thing. So Charlie wrote, we just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. He's basically saying, like, I won't be controlled. They don't like Tucker. Well, wait till they get a load of my friend Candace. I'll invite her too. And then somebody we don't know who replied, ugh. Charlie Kirk replies, Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Now, Candace Owens claims this was 48 hours before his assassination. Again, I'm not going to play any of your stupid games where people are saying this isn't what she's implying, because it is what she's implying. She's implying that Charlie Kirk leaving the pro-Israel cause is what got him killed. I am not entertaining. If you're going to engage with me, you guys know I make myself probably more available than I should, more available than anyone. You could talk to me in my Discord. You could talk to me on X. I respond to anybody. I don't even care if people are verified or not. But you've got to come correct. She is 100% insinuating that him leaving the the pro-Israel cause is, what led to his assassination. If you won't agree with me on that, then we probably won't agree with anything else. Now, is it worth noting that TPUSA had this money attached to them that had strings attached to it? Yeah, I think that that's probably worth noting. Somebody then replies, please don't invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term, in my opinion. Like, all groups, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed upon us makes life frustrating at times. After the dust settles a bit, maybe, and then the rest of the context is completely cut off. So it does prove that a donor pulled $2 million. If these messages are real, and I believe that they are real. I believe that they lack any additional or further context, which I would love to see, which is why her pressure, basically to say that she's going to keep releasing names, is probably a good thing so we can get the context here, because this is just 4 messages. We don't even know what day they were sent on. She says they were sent 48 hours before his assassination. This does not prove that. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Maybe she was told that. This does line up with some news of another Jewish donor who did in fact pull $2 million. So, I mean, there seems to be other information that does align with the donor. Again, this does not prove anything beyond the TPUSA had donors who were Jewish, who did not want Tucker Carlson involved, and Charlie Kirk said he didn't care. Now, there are a lot of people out there saying, look, anybody can make these messages up, which they can. You can go into Telegram, create whatever name you want, and send whatever messages you want to create these things. That's always the specter of like any text messages that come out. Just because they can be faked does not mean they are faked. I don't believe that Candace Owens would knowingly air fake text messages like this, knowing it would get her sued into oblivion if she knowingly faked them. Is it possible someone else faked them to maybe destroy her credibility? That could be true. Is it possible that immediately after that, Charlie Kirk said, cooler heads prevailed and, he wasn't going to leave anything pro-Israel? There were people that said, I talked to him, as requested, here's why Candace Owens isn't posting the whole conversation. Because one day after Charlie was, quote, leaving the pro-Israel cause, he was huddling with coworkers about effective pro-Israel messaging. Charlie loved America and loved Israel. Stop defiling his corpse. This is a video by Josh Hammer, who was in that text message group that said, I spoke to Charlie Kirk about Israel the night before he passed away. Is it possible? Again, two things can be, this is so convoluted and people just want to attach themselves to one rail and kind of ride it, which I get is kind of, it's what electricity does. It's what humankind does, the path of least resistance. But two things can be true, okay? These messages could be real, and Charlie Kirk could have been pissed off at Israel for pulling money, and maybe he even was considering leaving the pro-Israel lobby. We know ultimately he didn't, but we know he may have been discussing it. But it might also be true that a man banging a trans man took his life. People see everything in binary only, and most people won't even make it this far in the video before they've decided to upvote it or downvote it, because people don't want to try and think about two possible solutions. Even I have been guilty of that many times. I've been guilty about that even with Candace. The thing is, if these text messages are true, it doesn't actually prove they had anything to do with the assassination. Not that she's saying that. I think that's the implication, but that's not what she has said implicitly. Many on X and everyone else are taking this to say that's what happened, but that's not what Candace Owens has said. But I think two things can be true. These messages could be true, and he could have had purse strings attached to the money, attached to the TPUSA, and Charlie Kirk could not have liked it. I mean, if these messages are true, that is true. And it is also true that it could also be true that Tyler Robinson is the guy that took Charlie Kirk's life. I think a lot of this, the B cult stuff and the trapdoors and the space lasers and whatever, it's all entertainment. And I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. And as long as people who are consuming it are like, hey, this is an entertaining theory. I love, conspiracy theories. They're fun to listen to. But then when they become fact without any kind of evidence, then there's an issue. So we have alleged evidence. And I do believe these text messages are real. That, a donor left. Okay. But she has not provided any evidence for the other 2,700 claims she's made. Nothing. Where's a letter that she claimed that she had from Netanyahu or between Charlie Kirk and Netanyahu? Where's a letter, where's the video evidence she's claimed she had? Now, if you're telling me just to wait, well, I guess that's master marketing. Guess I'll just have to wait and tune in to see if she releases any other actual information. This is the first piece of real evidence that she's released that Charlie Kirk was annoyed about a Jewish donor pulling their money. If these messages are real, again, I can't deny it. But again, people on Twitter are like, this is what got Charlie Kirk killed. He started asking questions about our greatest ally and got too close to the sun. Again, I don't believe that that's true. Just because he criticized Israel and any possible stand down order or anything like that doesn't mean that Israel took his life. Now, she has said, should I release more of the text chain tomorrow? Well, hopefully we see more. Hopefully it provides some additional context. I don't think Candace will provide any context that disproves what she's been claiming. But if it's true, what we know, all this necessarily proves is that a donor pulled their money because they didn't like Tucker Carlson, and Charlie Kirk would not be bullied. That's what I took from all this. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody strikes back, because at this point, she's really leaving them no choice. So I'm guessing that she has more. We'll have to wait and see. I hope you're informed by this video, and we'll talk to you again real soon.